Hold up, before you slam the dislike button and write some angry comment below, when I mention alpha males, I'm talking about Robert Sapolsky's work and his research on primates. Okay, so I just want to say that like right off the bat because I know that people are going to read the title and be like, "What? Oh, alpha male? There's no such thing as alpha males," or some weird shit. No, I'm going to talk specifically about research done by Robert Sapolsky and hormones and how that translates into things. So let's start off where I want to start off, though. Sorry, I have to put that disclaimer in there. There's a book that I absolutely love. It's called Relax and Win. It's by Bud Winters. Okay, and absolutely everyone should get a copy. Everyone should read it. Okay. There's another book I enjoy called Mind Gym. I feel like Mind Gym is probably more useful to a lot of people just because of the fact that it uses many of the concepts that are taught in what's called acceptance and commitment therapy. Now, that being said, okay, relax and win. Why is that important, Chad? Great question. And here's what I want to share with you. Quick story. My friend Tim Wildman had an MMA fight, and he shared, stories and posts and stuff like that all along the way. And people asked him if he was nervous before the fight, and he shared a picture of himself taking a nap before the fight. Okay. I can relate to this. That was me. But that was me in hockey. You can't be confident in every situation. If you're in a situation that you're not familiar with, comfortable with, you're not going to be confident and relaxed. But when you are in a situation where you're confident and relaxed, that tends to be the situations where you are going to do well anyways. Like, I'm so accustomed to this that I don't even stress over it, right? So anyone who knows me well knows that I could often be found taking a nap. It'd be before the game, even big games, and I would just chill out and take a nap. I didn't get stressed out. I didn't get worked up. Not at all. I was just like, cool, like it's just another day. I got about as worked up over big hockey games as most people do to about going to work. Like it's just another thing, like I don't get fired up. I don't get stressed out. I don't get, anxious. It's about as sexy and exciting to me as just going to work and punching the clock again, right? So I'm taking a nap. I am not that way when it comes to MMA. If you knew me in MMA, it was a very different experience. I'd be pacing back and forth before the match, and I would be super stressed out. There were times where I'd be just the nervous energy, right? Like you're about to step into a cage and get punched in the face or kicked in the face, and it was just like this weird. I don't want to call it anxiety because it's not anxiety. Like you know exactly what you're doing, but there's a certain energy to it where you're like, oh shit, like this is it. Like this is the day. Like I've been training for this. I've been training for this. Like this is it. This is it. I don't know if I'm ready, kind of thing. Whereas with like hockey, it was like, yeah, of course I'm ready. I do this all the time. I've been doing this since I was 3 years old. I mean, what do you expect? At 17, and you've been doing it since you were 3 years old. It's like, this is just another day. Like, it doesn't matter, like you're just so accustomed to it at that point that you're very relaxed. With MMA, it's like I didn't have 14 years of experience before my first fight. I didn't have years and years and years of MMA matches to make me super comfortable and relaxed. I felt that way about wrestling. Wrestling was something I definitely relaxed about. But I started doing that as a kid. I mean, I was in elementary school when I started wrestling. So, by the time I'm in high school, I've got years under my belt. Okay, why is this important? Why does this matter? Well, I can't help but notice that the best athletes tend to always be very relaxed. They're the ones who are laid back. You look at Usain Bolt before running the 100 meters, he's like kind of chill. Like he's just having a good time. He's smiling at the crowd, he's waving, he's relaxed. It's an interesting thing. I think that it would be measured as neuroticism. If we were to look at like a Big Five personality profile, people who are higher in neuroticism They're the high stress, high anxiety people, and they don't tend to be the high performers. I'm not going to say there aren't exceptions. Certainly, I'm sure there's someone out there who is high in neuroticism and is still able to perform at an elite level. But as things go in general, your best athletes are the ones who tend to be really relaxed and laid back. They're the guys who don't stress out over this shit. And there's probably some reasons behind that. And so I'm going to say that that applies to just about every sport I can think of. I actually can't think of a sport where it would behoove you to be a very neurotic, controlling, like I need to control every variable type person, because sport by its very nature is unpredictable. I can't I can't control what's going to happen in the game. I don't control the other players. It's an unpredictable environment. Like you look at hockey or football, it's a very unpredictable environment in many ways. I mean, sure, there's stuff that's predictable. Like the play is going to start, the play is going to end. The puck is going to be within this area. Like that's all predictable. But in terms of how the game goes down or what's going to happen or who moves which way or this is the whole point of sport, isn't it? I'm going to react to what you do. You go left. Oh shit. I couldn't have predicted that you were going to go left. You could have very well gone right, or you could have crashed right into me. There is a certain level of chaos and uncontrollable movement variables, etc., in sport. By being laid back, you're better able to respond. And I think that we can all agree that you do better at things whenever you're not stressed out. Like if I got you into a super stressed out state, maybe you had a fight with your girlfriend, and then I ask you to do some very complex task, you're probably going to have a hard time focusing on it. But if you're really calm and you're relaxed and you're in a good mental place, that very difficult task is much easier. Okay? And I'm going to bring up the work of Sapolsky now and talk about the alpha males. Okay? So he noticed in his research that the alpha males had higher circulating levels of like testosterone, the androgens, right? They had high testosterone and they had low cortisol. They had low stress hormones. They had low adrenaline, right? They're not stressed out. The other primates, the ones who were not the alpha, okay, had very high stress levels. They had high cortisol. They had high norepinephrine. They had high adrenaline, right? They had high stress levels. They were neurotic. They're stressed out and they have high circulating levels of stress hormones. There's something you can learn from this, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can just snap your fingers and do this either, okay? That's like telling your dog to, be more like a cat. Well, your dog can't be like a cat. Your dog is a dog. Your dog is going to do what dogs do. So, I can't just look at my dog and say, hey, act more like a cat, because it's not in their nature. So if it's not in your nature to be super laid back, and it is your nature to be neurotic, there's only a certain degree by which you can really reduce this. I mean, if you're a very neurotic person, that's probably going to be something that you're going to deal with your entire life. And if you're a high anxiety person, like that is going to be something that you are probably going to be able to make some progress with, but certainly like you're never going to be Bob Marley. You're not going to be super laid back. I've been criticized even, actually. I've had people tell me you are too laid back. In fact, my wife tells me that I'm too laid back. Many people have actually told me that I'm too laid back. And that's been my entire life. My entire life, people have been telling me that I'm too laid back. So I'm assuming that that just must be my nature. But I will say that certainly if you put me in the right situation, I will be very stressed. That is not to say that I don't have situations where I am stressed. Okay? So maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something to environment and the fact that we can't be laid back all the time, but we're in situations at certain times where we have confidence, we're comfortable with that situation, and then we do become laid back. So the example I gave at the beginning of hockey for me, or MMA for Tim, you're so confident in that situation, you've been here before, right? Act like you've been here before. You show up for hockey night in Boston and the stands are absolutely filled with people. Some guys freak out. Some guys look up in the stands and they see, I don't know how many people are there. Hundreds, thousands? I don't have no idea. It's not like you can sit there and count how many people are in the stands. But I will tell you that that's very different than playing high school hockey where everyone in the stands is someone's mom or dad. And there's like maybe 60 people, right? Very different playing in front of 60 people than it is playing in front of, say, 1,000 people. That's going to stress you out if you haven't been there before. If you have been there before, or if you were like me and games just gradually got bigger over time. Playing hockey as a kid, you had everyone's mom and dad in the stand. And then, eventually you get to a point where there's, okay, well, the crowd's a little bit bigger. Maybe there's 80 people, then there's 100 people, then there's 200 people, then there's 300 people. Like it gradually got bigger over time. So then you're not getting that shock. But if you went from having 50 people in the stands to having 10,000 people in the stands overnight, that would mess with you. Imagine going straight from playing in front of people's moms and dads to being on the ice in the fucking Stanley Cup. Whew. That's going to be overwhelming. But most of us worked our way up through sports. You played high school and then you played college or you played juniors if you play hockey. And the crowds gradually get bigger. And so you don't even notice it because it's such a small climb over time. It's not like you went from, 60 people to 60,000 people overnight. You slowly kept moving up in level, and then eventually you're playing in a larger and larger arenas with more and more seating, and now it doesn't bother you anymore. And that's kind of like, I don't want to say it's stress inoculation, but it kind of is. Like you're getting smaller doses of this increase over time. And so like you kind of get used to it without even realizing that you're getting used to it. But if you took a person who had never been in front of a large crowd before and then put them in front of a huge crowd, like that would be very stressful. Imagine someone who's never given any kind of public speaking, right? Like the last time you did public speaking was some presentation you gave in your high school class your senior year. And now I'm going to ask you to stand in front of a crowd of 10,000 people and give a speech. That might be a little bit shocking. You went from being in front of 30 of your peers to suddenly being in front of thousands of people that you don't know. Might be a little bit stressful. Public speaking is very, very stressful. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking. In fact, more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of death. So, where am I headed with this? What I'm trying to express to you is this whole concept of relax and win, right? If you are an athlete, if you are even just training, guys who stress out over training don't make the same progress as guys who are laid back about training. I can't help but notice that. It's the guys who want to control every factor and really stress out over their training, the guys who are like, oh, I have to have every number and I'm super neurotic. Those guys don't do as well in training as the guys who are just kind of like, yeah, just come in and lift. Like you look at some of the top bodybuilders out there, they don't even keep a logbook. Like they just come in and lift. It's like, yeah, I did 5 sets of this and 5 sets of that and 3 sets of this and 3 sets of that. And you ask them, what'd you lift last week? And they're like, I don't know. Like I just go till it feels hard. And yet those guys make great progress. Why? Because they just come in and train. They just do it. They're not stressing over like, oh, I have to have this percentage with exactly this many reps and this many sets, and my rest time has to be precisely 120 seconds and blah, 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 blah. No, these guys just come in and do it. Or like you look at diet and nutrition. Like I think one of the things that people set themselves up for failure, and we don't have a weight loss problem in this country. Let me jump onto a completely separate topic. Something like 7 out of 8 people who want to lose weight. Our problem is that people can't keep it off. It's like 95 to 97% of people regain weight. Why? Because I think what happens is people burn out from the stress of having to weigh and measure everything all the goddamn time, or the restrictiveness of their diet. People go on very restrictive diets. Of course you're going to lose weight. You're on a restrictive diet. But then, like, you just burn out. It's high stress. Look at the people who just put in really minor changes, though. People who have kind of a more laid-back approach to their diet tend to be more successful, myself included. I tell people all the time, and that's weird to me because people will criticize me for it, but I tell people I don't track. Like, I don't track my macros. I don't count. I don't count calories either. And I've talked about this. I just kind of like, I mean, I know how much I'm eating only because I know how much I have to buy, right? So I know, like, oh, I need to buy this many containers of yogurt, or I need to buy this much meat, so that I have like 3 days worth of food or something, right? But like, I don't sit there and stress out like, oh man, this ground beef is 70/30. That means I'm getting X number of grams of protein and X number of grams of fat. And no, like, I really don't stress out over that stuff. I don't even waste the time. Because actually, I think it's silly. I think counting macros is kind of a silly concept. Do you really believe that your chicken breast has X number of grams of fat per breast? Or do you think that each breast is probably different? People vary, you know? People have varying body fat percentages. Do you really think every chicken breast that you're pulling out of that bag is 1.5 grams of fat? What's to say that one of those chicken breasts isn't 1 gram of fat and another one is 5 grams of fat? Every chicken is exactly the same body fat percentage. This isn't a pharmaceutical product, that we don't have exactly 100 milligrams of active ingredient in your ground beef. Okay, so when the ground beef says that it's 70/30, is it really 70/30? For all you know, it could be 60/40. You can't tell. And you know how they do that stuff? A lot of times, I worked at Whole Foods, and they would just grind that shit up in the back and be like, yeah, that looks roughly, 80/20. It's not like someone sat there, weighed and measured it out and was like, yes, this is exactly 80% lean and 20% fat. Nah, like, it's just, they just eyeball it. So what makes you think that the food label is accurate? I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure something like egg whites, the pasteurized egg whites that you buy in the carton, is probably much closer to being accurate. I doubt it has any fat in it. There's probably no variation, but you look at eggs and it's like, well, one egg is slightly bigger than another. Yes, they're all large eggs, but I guarantee that the protein content and fat content varies. This is a separate tangent here, but my point being that, like, chill out and relax. One, I'll tell you the same thing I say all the time, it's just food. But two, the people who get super into this stuff and stress out over, like, how many grams of protein am I eating? How many grams of protein are you eating? I gotta track this. I gotta make sure I hit these numbers. Oh my gosh, I'm 2 grams short on my carbs. What do I do? How do I feel in just 2 grams? Dude, chill out. One of the saddest things I ever saw, and this is why I warn you guys, I think I've said this before, that most of the people who do nutrition, these nutritionists and dietitians, etc., have eating disorders. They do. I know these people personally. Someone who is very, very successful, extremely well known. Okay? I was friends with this individual for a very long time, and I'll never forget, he freaked out because one time he was weighing and measuring his rice cakes, and he realized that one of his rice cakes weighed 11 grams instead of 9 grams per rice cake. And he's like, this is why it's so important that we weigh and measure all the time. I almost accidentally ate an 11-gram rice cake. That would have thrown my entire diet off. And so I purposely broke off pieces of it until it only weighed 9 grams. And I was like, dude, if 2 grams on a fucking rice cake is the difference between you being lean and fat, like, I don't know, man. Like, there's something else going on there. But really, like, stressing out over 2 grams, like, oh, well, this one rice cake was 11 grams instead of 9. It's like, dude, chill out. It's just food. It's just food. And I can tell you that that individual has never, ever accomplished his goal. I have known him, so, gosh, I want to say 2011, but it might have even been 2012. And he still hasn't hit his goal of being, super shredded lean. And I think it's because he does this restrictive thing where he restricts and restricts and restricts, and he's super obsessive. And then he burns out, and he goes off the rails, and regains all the weight, and then he goes right back to that super restrictive diet all over again. And he just goes through this cycle of over-restriction, over-stressing, right? Drives himself crazy trying to hit these numbers. Then it's too much for him. He burns out, and then he falls off the wagon, goes, total fucking bender, regains all the weight, and then puts himself right back into the same restrictive thing. It's almost like he punishes himself. Like, oh, I had ice cream. Now I have to punish myself and, fasting and starving myself to make up for the fact I had ice cream. Dude, just chill out. Just have the ice cream and then just go back to normal tomorrow. Like, it's not a problem. And I'm realize that now I'm off on a tangent because I'm talking about dieting, but really it's actually the same thing. Like, it really is. It's the same thing. If I feel like shit and I come into my training session, it's like, okay, like today's just going to be an easy day. Like, we're going to roll easy, and I'll focus on technique work and stuff like that. We're not going to roll hard. I don't want to get banged up. I'm already feeling kind of sore, but I don't want to miss practice. So you kind of just like punch the clock. Like, you're just putting some pennies in the piggy bank. You know? Not every training session has to be all out. Not every training session has to be balls to the wall and, oh, I didn't tap a single time. Dude, I don't fucking care. I will tap. I don't care if I'm rolling with a white belt. If I'm rolling with a white belt and he catches me in an armbar, I am not fighting this and risking breaking my epicondyle or something like that because, oh, I won't tap to a white belt. No, I'm like, cool. Hey, good armbar, man. I tap and we just go back to rolling because it's just skill work. Like, if this was a real fight, it wouldn't matter if I tapped anyways. In a real fight, some dude gets your arm, you can tap all you want. He's going to break your arm. You know? Some guys got you in a guillotine choke. Like, just tap. It's practice. In a real fight, you can tap all you want. That dude's going to keep choking you. I mean, a real fight, like not sport fight. Sport fight, you tap, you lose. But in a real fight, like if some dude's trying to choke you out, you go ahead and tap. He's going to choke you out. Just like how if he gets a hold of your arm, he's going to break your arm. It's not like tapping is suddenly like people are like, oh, I'll let you go so you can go back to punching me in the face. And so my overall message here, that I'm coming back around to is like people would benefit a lot from learning to kind of just chill out over this stuff. Like I say, it's just food. Same thing for your training. Like, it's just lifting. Like, we're just pretending to do physical labor. We don't have to chop down trees and build log cabins anymore, dragging these things up and down hills. So we lift barbells. You don't have to sprint after your dinner. So we run on the track or run on the treadmill. It's like, relax, chill out, and be like the alpha males, the primates from Sapolsky's study. They're more laid back. Because they're more laid back, they have lower cortisol levels, they have lower stress hormones, they have higher testosterone levels. If you stress out, you're going to drive up all your stress hormones, you're going to drive down your anabolic hormones like testosterone. And that's something I wish that more people understood. My life is so much better whenever I'm in a low stress state. When I'm in a high stress state, everything sucks. I'm not just talking about training. I mean, like, even my ability to focus. Like, if I'm trying to read something and I'm stressed out over whatever happened earlier that day, I have a hard time focusing. I'll read a paragraph, get to the end of the paragraph, and be like, what the hell did I just read? I have to go back to the beginning of the paragraph and read it all over again. And then maybe I'll read it a second time, and I'm like, I don't even remember what the fuck I just read. What did I just read? I'll do that listening to YouTube videos. If I'm really stressed out and I'm listening to a YouTube video, and I suddenly realize, like, oh, shit, there's a video on. I don't even remember what they said in the last 5 minutes. I gotta rewind and go back and listen again. But when you're relaxed, you just kind of like absorb everything. Like, it's just, everything goes smoother, whether it's training or it's work, it's reading, studying. Try to learn to play guitar in a really stressful situation. You can't do it. You gotta relax. Like playing piano. Like, I play piano all the time, but like I have to be relaxed to do it. I can't go have a huge fight with my brother and then go sit down and practice a new piece that I've never played before. Like, I gotta chill out. I gotta relax, and then that way I can kind of focus on what I'm doing, and I don't have these other things that are, driving stress hormones up and putting me into an agitated state. It's the whole parasympathetic sympathetic thing. And so I feel like, the more time you can spend in a relaxed state, like, the better just everything's going to go. Whether it's your sport practice, and you're learning a new skill, or, if it's just you sticking to your diet. I mean, we know that people stress eat. Well, if you can control your stress, then now suddenly those stress binges, emotional eating, that isn't so much of an issue for you. And that's kind of the message I have for people. So I highly recommend that you read Relax and Win. Mind Gym is another good one. There's plenty of other great books out there. I like The Happiness Trap. It's by Russ Harris. That's another good one. I recommend it to everyone all the time. There's a workbook, Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Stephen Hayes. Make sure that you get the right one, the one that's by Stephen Hayes, Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. It's a workbook for acceptance and commitment therapy. I highly recommend it. I really do like ACT, ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. Mindfulness, the happiness trap uses a lot of mindfulness in it. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. That's another good one. These are things that you can use. Embrace them. Use them. It will make your life better. I don't even care if you are or are not an athlete. Maybe you're just trying to be a better dad. Okay? Learning to not be reactionary. Learning to be calm. The pause between response, right? We have a stimulus. You have a moment to absorb that stimulus in your response time. That pause, that's something that gets talked about in ACT. That's a great thing. That's a really good thing. The more that you guys embrace those types of things, the better your life will be. So here we are, 25 minutes in. If you guys have listened this far, be sure to like the video. Let me know that you like this kind of content. Comment below if you have questions or you have an opinion on this. Maybe you have an experience that you'd like to share. Other people will read your comment and maybe be able to use that to help themselves. If you have a book that you say, oh, you know what book really helped me? This book. Please list it below. In fact, if I haven't read it, I will make a point to read it. I always appreciate book recommendations. And if you guys like this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe and comment below. Let me know what kind of topics you would like me to cover. I would be happy to talk about CBT versus, ACT versus DBT. These are things that I pay attention to. I pay attention to sports psychology. I must have a pile of books, at least, 4 feet high of sports psychology books. I'm really into sports psychology because I think that it's a major factor. I've watched it across my entire coaching career, that some of the athletes are fantastic in the gym and then they just bomb out in the game, which is something I used to do. I used to be that player who I could do everything in practice. Everything in practice. I was great. I was the best player on the team in practice. And then we get into the game and I would just bomb out. That was more of a problem in things like baseball. I never ever got over that in baseball. I don't know why. But I could hit anything in practice. And then in the game, strike out every fucking time. I don't know why. I don't have an excuse for you. I stopped playing baseball to focus on hockey, so I never had enough time to focus in and really fix that. But for hockey, that was the flip side. For hockey, I learned to relax, and so it didn't bother me anymore. I was a clutch player, and my coaches would put me in on penalty kill. It was like, hey, we got a penalty kill. Put Chad in. 100% of the time. I killed every penalty that happened. It was like I knew I was going in. So the more penalties we took, the more ice time I got. Anyways, the point being that I'm just trying to share with you guys is that whole thing of finding that balance and being more like the alpha male primates that Sapolsky talks about, low stress hormones. And that's why they're healthier too. The alpha male was not just higher testosterone levels; they had better blood glucose levels, they had better cholesterol levels because they weren't stressed out. The monkeys and apes who were stressed out, they had high lipids and high cholesterol and high blood glucose. They weren't healthy. Stress kills. We've all heard that. People having heart attacks and stuff. Stress kills. So this isn't just limited to sport, but I'm talking about it in the context of sport. If you guys learn to relax and maybe let go a little bit, let go of some of those neurotic behaviors, stop trying to control things, you will find that everything else in your life gets better. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and like I said, like the comment if you liked it. Like and comment. Let me know. Tell me, hey, I hate this topic. Don't talk about it anymore, or this is a great topic. I wish you'd go into depth on some other part of it, and I'd be happy to. So there you guys have it.